Of course, talking about sci-fi, we are joined by my old macker, Mr. Rob Llewellyn. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming on. How's everything with you?
I think it's all right. Sort of, it's just life turns into one long stumble, but I'm managing just to stumble as opposed to fall flat on my face. So it's not too bad.
Busy as ever. Is Red Dwarf happening still?
It is. Well, there's no official announcement, but we are doing one, and it's been acknowledged publicly that we're making another series, and it will be next year, but we don't know when. And I think the logistical problems of getting all four of us in the same place at the same time are quite difficult. I mean, at the moment, Danny John Jules is in the West Indies.
Right.
Craig's on Coronation Street, so that's why we're not doing it now. Later this year, I'm in America, so it's kind of all those things are kind of so that it keeps going. When are we going to be able to do this? So hopefully we'll do it early next year.
And how is it? Because you did Red Dwarf when I was a teenager. Then you had a 10-year break, and then back to it.
Yeah. So the last old series of Red Dwarf I did was the same year as I did the first series of Scrap Heap. Right. And then Scrap Heap for 10 years, and then a gap, and then suddenly, and I really, by then, genuinely had forgotten all about it. Occasionally people would mention it, but it wasn't something I did or thought about. And then we did that little 3-episode special, and then we did a new series, and it was. What I think what's more shocking, which we've all said, is it's so weird how normal it was. Right. Instantly, we were all in costume. It was like we had a weekend off, or maybe a week off. And it was actually 14 years.
Wow.
And all the jokes we used to do in the early 90s about Dad's Army in space, we'll be doing this when they're all. In fact, now we're beyond that. We'll be Granddad's Army in space quite soon. It's just alarming how. And then there's sort of little sequences where we're running from some genetically engineered life form that's threatening the ship or something. The run isn't quite as quick. It's a bit of a hobble.
Is it?
I've got a bit of a dicky knee.
Have you got a kind of space kind of walking stick?
I want a Zimmer frame.
Space Zimmer frame.
Yeah. But I mean, it was immense fun doing it. And it was so odd to go back to that because I hadn't done any sort of acting type of work for 14 years. I don't do it, and to suddenly have to kind of, like we did on Scrap Heap. You have a little bit of script you work out or something you've worked out, and then you do that to 1 minute or 30 seconds. This you've got to remember a whole half an hour.
Yeah, but Bobby, you were so good at remembering a line. It's a problem.
We should mention, of course, for those who don't know, of course, that you two have history and you did Scrap Heap Challenge together
for many years. Yeah,
we did do Scrap Heap Challenge together for longer than I mean, think about that. We spent hours and hours just hanging around together, didn't we?
Yeah, and it always was raining.
Yes, just about.
Because when you watch it on telly, it looks it's the opposite of normal British memory. Normally you remember sun, and then actually it was raining. But on that, I can only remember rain until we see it. We can watch it on the telly. God, it was sunny then. I can't believe it.
Don't remember that. Do you remember I sunburnt? I got sunburnt once.
Yes, I got sunburnt.
Yeah. But yes, I mean that is another show that people talk about a lot. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You seem to have done shows that really capture people's imagination.
Well, and also, I mean, you can't plan that sort of stuff, but shows that lasted a long time. Because certainly when I did the pilot, the first series of Scrap Heap, it was the most bonkers, half-baked thing. Nothing worked. Everyone fell apart. The teams didn't. It was an absolute mess. And I thought, and I'd done, I think, 3 weird Channel 4 experimental, quirky, slightly science-based programs, none of which anyone was ever going to watch. That's what I felt. And Scrap Heap was just one of those. And then Scrap Heap just kept growing and carrying on for years. I mean, it was.
Rather annoyingly, as well as presenting and acting, you also write books. How many have you written out?
14.
14?
Wow. Yeah. 14 and a half. 13 and a half. 13 and a half. It's very hard because I co-wrote one with Nigel Planer, so I only wrote half of that one. Actually, I did all the typing. He had a bad back, but he walked around pontificating, which is very funny, so I just wrote that down.
You see Nigel doing that. You've got 2 of them with you.
I have.
Man in the Rubber Mask.
Well, the Man in the Rubber Mask is because I'm now working, I'm basically, they aren't self-published. The Man in the Rubber Mask. But I work with the publishing, so it's a publishing group called Unbound, so we do crowd-funded, it's like Kickstarter for books.
Right.
Although this one was because I'd written it 20 years ago. So this originally told the story of like the first 4 or 5 years I was in Red Dwarf, which went from genuinely, properly penniless thespian doing a show at the Edinburgh Festival to my own apartment in Hollywood in that period. But just to put that in context, my own apartment in Hollywood was lent to me for a couple of weeks.
Still sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
It does sound. But when I got off the first class flight from Hollywood in London and went back to my flat in North London, the gas had been cut off. So there was a bit of a come down. So that's about that much of the book, and then that much I've written more recently, which is of the rest of the sort of to catch up with the history of it. And the little quote in the front was from courtesy of Danny John Jules, which when I was talking about redoing it, and I said I don't know if I should do that book because it just feels like jumping on the Red Dwarf bandwagon. I can't do the whole quote, but he said, "You've been pushing the beeping bandwagon up the hill for the last 24 years. You may as well jump on it, Bobby." So I went, "Oh, fair enough." That kind of removed all my middle class guilt.
Well, we're delighted that Red Dwarf is back, aren't we? I'm a big fan myself.
Love a bit of Red Dwarf. Yeah.